Hi guys. Today we're gonna be talking about two films, Black Orpheus and Pan's Labyrinth, and like elements of myth and ritual in both of them. So I'm gonna start off with Black Orpheus. This film is directly related to the Greek myth of Orpheus and Persephone. In the myth, Orpheus is Apollo's son, and he's gifted a lyre. So whenever he plays it, he's like really good at playing it, and it says that like living and non-living things are moved by it. So he falls in love with this girl named Eurydice, and Eurydice dies because she's bitten by a snake. So in order to get her back, Orpheus goes down into the underworld, and Hades tells him that if he can, like, he'll give her back, but that he has to leave the underworld without looking back in order to keep her, and if not, then she'll like be stuck in the underworld forever. So as they're like walking out, Orpheus becomes suspicious, and he thinks that he's being fooled by the gods because he can't hear her footsteps or anything. But that's because she's still like in the underworld like form, so she's like a shadow. And so right when he's about to cross the threshold out of the underworld, he turns around and like not Persephone, Eurydice's like shadow is like taken back, and she has to stay in the underworld forever. So out of heartbreak, Orpheus, he uses his lyre to play a mourning tune, and he like calls for death because now he knows he'll never have Eurydice back. So in the actual film, Orpheus is portrayed by a Brazilian man, and he also meets a girl named Eurydice, and they fall in love. But Eurydice dies, and then on his journey to get her back, he encounters a dog named Cerberus, which is also part of the Greek myth. So he encounters a dog named Cerberus, and he's like told not to look back while he's saving her, but he does. And so she ends up dying, and so does he, and they fall off a cliff together, the same way that both Orpheus and Eurydice also died in the Greek myth. So some other elements of like myth and ritual that are in the movie are that when Orpheus is like playing in the movie, Orpheus has a guitar, not a lyre. He has a lyre in the actual Greek myth. So when Orpheus in the movie is playing his guitar, there's a scene where the little kids and like everybody else is so excited because his guitar playing makes the sun rise, and like it just represents joy and like rebirth and reincarnation and stuff like that. And then at the end of the movie, the girl that Orpheus is with at the beginning, people are calling her a snake and stuff, and that kind of relates to how Eurydice is like in the Greek myth. Eurydice dies because she steps on a snake, and in the movie, Eurydice also kind of sort of technically dies because of Mir's fault. And then also at the end of the movie, there's a scene where there's a little boy playing guitar and the sun is rising, and so that shows how like it's a reincarnation of Orpheus, which Orpheus states in the movie that there have been many before and there will be many after. And so that kind of relates to the concept of the god of vegetation, because that like talks about reincarnation, and so this is like a reincarnation of Orpheus. And then in the second movie, Pan's Labyrinth, so there's some ritual, there's myth and ritual in this movie, but the main character, Ophelia, it's like a myth that she was like a princess, or that she was a princess, but she like forgot who she was, and so now she's like living a normal human life, but she meets like a faun, and he tells her that she has to do 3 tests in order to be reunited with like her family, like her real family. And so these 3 tests are kind of seen as rituals because she has to complete them in order to like get something out of it. So in the second ritual, the faun tells her that she has to go get a dagger from like this place, but that she can't eat any of the food or like bad things will happen. So she goes and she gives into temptation and takes like, I think she eats a grape, and there's like this monster with like no face, and he almost like kills her, but she's able to escape like just in time. And this kind of relates to the Greek myth of Persephone and Hermes, because Hades kidnaps Persephone and takes her into the underworld, and Hermes has to go get her, but Hades gives her like a pomegranate or like a pomegranate seed, and he says that if she eats the pomegranate that she'll have to go back. And the same way that Ophelia gives into a temptation, Persephone does too. So she eats the pomegranate, and then in the myth it's that for 4 months of every year Persephone has to go back into the underworld, and then that's like an explanation for winter because she was the goddess of spring. And yeah, so then later in the movie, for the last test, I think, yeah, for the last like test that the faun gives her, it's that they need innocent blood as a sacrifice. And so Ophelia is supposed to sacrifice her little brother, but she chooses not to, and then her stepdad or her dad kills her, and so her blood is used as a sacrifice and she dies. But then even after she dies, there's a scene in which she's wearing different clothes and she's in a throne room, and she's seen reunited with her father and her mother. And this also relates to the concept of reincarnation, because it's a reincarnation of Ophelia in like her real, like as her real like in her real life, where she was a princess and her dad was a king. And and this also relates to the god of vegetation because of the concept of like rebirth and reincarnation and stuff. And then in Pan's Labyrinth, there's another like ritual or myth type thing where the faun gives her or like I don't know if the faun gives it to her, but she gets like a mandrake, like the plant, and she has to put it in milk and feed it 2 drops of her blood every day. And the mandrake, it like kind of represents her mom's baby because she uses it to like help her with the pregnancy. And as long as she's like able to take care of it, then the pregnancy is going well. But her mom finds it and burns it, and when she does that, she immediately starts like going into labor, and she ends up dying giving birth to the baby, because the mandrake was destroyed, and so was like her life ended too. So that's kind of, I guess that kind of relates. But yeah.